hair is in some sort of state. I need a haircut. Okay, top comment decides what I do to my hair. Leave a comment down below with what type of haircut I should get. Hey, so yesterday, SuperSlam, I did it again. I called it SuperSlam. This is so bad. SuperSlam, the new Flesh and Blood set was revealed. We talked about it pretty in depth, showing a bunch of the cards that were spoiled and that sort of stuff yesterday, and based on a lot of the comments, it seems like the theme is quite divisive amongst players of Flesh and Blood. I think there's a lot of sentiment regarding whether or not this feels like Flesh and Blood or not. To me, it does, because it's just an extension of what we already had in the Deathmatch Arena, which was gladiatorial combat. This just becomes a little bit more, God, my hair is so weird, becomes a little bit more leaning into the wrestling side of things. But you know, as they show art, like there's like little hints and little pieces of Comeback Kid, right? That's like such a great wrestling superstar, like side name, like subtitle, if you will, or just something you would hear an announcer make. But at the same time, like, that's good art. That's like cool looking, and it feels like Gladiator to some degree, right? Because of the setting, the location. So to me, this is not too big of a deal, but I think amongst, you know, this divisive nature that, I mean, even looking at wrestling, there's people that love wrestling and there's people that hate wrestling. And so it makes sense that this theme would have some divisiveness to it. But I think the thing that people missed because they were so focused on the theming is perhaps the most important thing, the most exciting thing, and the thing that LSS is doing differently this time that probably could or should be a steady thing going forward, something they continually do going forward. And it has nothing to do with the world premiere. It doesn't even have anything to do with the theming. I'm not talking about the pre-release kit. No, I'm talking about right here, the expansion slot. The SuperSlam expansion slot features a whopping 31 cards for classes and talents outside of those featured in the set. More support for existing heroes than any previous expansion slot ever. Now let's put that to the test. Okay, so here's the High Seas expansion slots. And if we look at this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess we can count Codex of Frailty, 6. So we have to. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And technically there were 3 Marvel allies in here. So if we want to count those, we can, but I'm going to leave them out. 14 expansion slot cards in High Seas. Here's the Hunted. Let's make sure that some didn't bleed over onto this page, and they did. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and we'll count Command & Conquer 15. We'll leave out the Marvels. So 15, we had 14 in High Seas. Back here in Rosetta, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 as well. So it looks like it's for the past 3 sets teetered around 14, 15, so on and so forth. But again, going back to SuperSlam here, there's going to be 31, so more than double the expansion slot cards. Now this is a 276 card set, and this is counting these cards. I would imagine this is counting the expansion slot cards as well in that 42 Majestics. Correct me if I'm wrong down below, but if there's 31 of these cards, and this is indeed counting the amount of cards in the set, this will be a smaller set to make more room for expansion slot cards. But why do I think this is a good thing? One, I think LSS does a very good job, I think has been doing a very good job going forward of balancing their overall set amount and balancing their limited play experience together. I really enjoyed, as many people did, really enjoyed High Seas Limited. I personally enjoyed Hunted, even though I know some people said it got a little bit derivative towards the end of the life cycle. I thought it was pretty fun from what I experienced of it, but then again, I didn't go super deep into it like some did. Nevertheless, I feel like the limited play experience, if this is taking like 31 cards out of this set, I don't think that's going to suffer in any way, shape, or form. But what this does is it allows LSS to thread this line between having a fully draftable set and going back to the old school expansion boosters. You know, your Crucible of Wars, your, I hate to say it, but Dusk Till Dawn, which I was not a big fan of. but your Everfests, right? Like those type of products that were literally just expansion booster sets. They were expansion sets that allowed you to pick up the cards and play into these new archetypes. Dynasty specifically, really, like looking back, that was a way to shoehorn in new keywords and things like that, right? This could be a way to marry those ideas, because the fact of the matter is, if your class doesn't have a draftable expansion for a year and a half, a single expansion slot card, one card every set, isn't going to drastically change your hero's prospects, unless that card is super broken. And I don't know if anyone actually wants consistently super broken cards to be pushed out via the expansion slot so that a class and hero can be more playable. Specifically a class. Like if we're looking at, I'll say it right now, the Brute class and the Warrior class. Like the Brute class, looking back at all of these Brute cards that have come out, they're very, I wouldn't say underwhelming, but perhaps they're very ineffective. Like if we go back here and we look at, I don't know if there was like Splatter Skull. It's not a card that moves the needle because you picked it up and put it in your deck, right? That's not a card that you go out and go, okay, now everything has changed for my Reinhardt or KO deck. This is the moment, right, where I can come out and actually like spike a tournament or spike an event. And I don't think it should be. Keep in mind, I'm not saying that they should make cards like this more powerful. I am saying that if there's one of these cards correctly made, in my opinion, it comes out, it doesn't move the needle enough. So a class like Brute, or for example, I think Unsheathed is a great example. This is a very powerful card that goes into like all warrior decks, right? It could fit into just about every warrior deck. This to me is like one of the perfect expansion slot cards. And yet, warriors, their play style, their overall like archetypes, they don't change much. And the needle isn't moved much in the meta because of this type of card. If you, however, have a 31 card expansion slot area, what if you start doing 2 cards per, class, like 2 warrior cards, and they're both majestics? Or you could even maybe work in a cycle within this. Like let's say that you just released an expansion or really a booster product for Brute and Guardian, and you're about to release Guardian Mastery Pack. Well, obviously, you're not going to include those 2 heroes in the expansion slots. So you take those out. Now you look at cards or like classes like Illusionist. You look at classes like Necromancer that you just released. Or heck, classes like Pirate. There it is. You have enough space in a 31 card mini set to release a single cycle for one of those classes. And that could be really cool. That could be really interesting. Now, there's some balancing points in there because, of course, this is the expansion slot. And if you have a cycle of cards releasing in the expansion slot, it's going to be very difficult to collect that full cycle unless you just go and buy them from a local game store or from like MinMax Games or from TCG Player. Like that's the reality of it. But the fact that you could do that as LSS and have this going forward, if you have the space in your sets to release something like a 30 card, 31 card expansion block, and do keep in mind, they also said this, some of those cards are going to be taken up by several key reprints. So what are they reprinting? I mean, Enlightened Strike could get reprinted. We don't really need reprints on Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, things like that, but Enlightened Strike is like a top of the list, I think, in my opinion, because they've already reprinted Command and Conquer and Codex of Frailty. So Enlightened Strike is one that I think that they could really go for. I don't think they're ever going to reprint a Fabled. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe they could. I don't know, leave a comment down below if you think that they would do that. A non-foil Fabled, like Eye of Ophidia gets reprinted. I think if they did that, they would have to fit it into a set with the theming around that in some way, shape, or form. Kind of like what they did with Rosetta and reprinting Briar in this fancier form. But like, let's say they go back to Everfest and they reprint Eye of Ophidia because the lore dictated that it was time to do that. They could do something like that. Nevertheless, this type of product, I think, is a beautiful bridge between the old expansion product, which was sort of like an extension booster set. It had like all the classes in it, and the need for every set to be draftable going forward, right? That was what they said a couple of years ago. Every set needs to be draftable going forward after Dusk Till Dawn. And in doing so, that means you can play it in limited, you can incorporate it into the competitive season, and then you have that all set up, but you have this mini block that you're not having to release in a separate product, which I think is something that I thought they would do. Release something like this in like a mini set, a separate product. You don't need to do that. You just put it in the boosters, and people can pick up the singles if they want, or they can open the product and get those things and then trade them. Trading has become a bigger thing now that gem packs exist, which I think is great. They're putting the trading back in trading card game, and this is possibly a way for them to continue down that path. So I'm really excited about this. And if you're not so sure on the whole theming of SummerSlam here, I'm just gonna call it SummerSlam from now on because it's just way more fun to say. If you're not certain on the theming of this, you should at least be excited that they are putting a mini set of expansion slot cards for perhaps your favorite class, like Warrior or Pirate, could be in this product. I think it's pretty cool. So let me know what you think about this in the comment below. And if you like this, editorial type content where I just tell you my opinions on stuff, make the number, go to the other number, and let me know that as well down in the comments below. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.